A sleeping human is just meat. Slow meat. Quiet meat. Meat that cannot fight back, cannot run, can barely even register that something is happening until it is already happening. You would think predators would be circling campsites every night like some kind of all-you-can-eat buffet, but they are not. They almost never are. And the reason they are not, it is not one thing. It is never just one thing. There are several layered explanations, each one more fascinating than the last. And together they paint this picture of a strange invisible agreement between humans and the wild. An agreement that goes back further than civilization, further than agriculture, further than anything we normally think of as human history. This goes deep. Let us start with the thing that sounds like an ego trip, but is actually just biology. You are terrifying. Not you specifically, but humans as a species to predators. We are genuinely, deeply, evolutionarily frightening. We do not have claws. We are not fast. We are not particularly strong for our size. On paper, we are kind of a disaster as an animal. And yet a study published in 2019 by researchers at UC Santa Cruz found something remarkable. They played audio recordings of human voices near mountain lions in the Santa Cruz Mountains in California. Normal human voices, people just talking. And the pumas fled. They fled at the same rate they fled from the sound of dogs barking, and in many cases even faster. These are animals that take down full-grown deer like it is nothing. Animals that can drag a kill up a steep hill. And they heard a podcast and ran. That was not a one-off result. The same research showed that pumas abandoned food they had already killed, food they were in the process of eating, when they heard human voices nearby. They left their meal on the ground and moved away from the sound. From a survival standpoint, that is an enormous cost. A predator giving up a kill is basically working for free, and they still did it because the discomfort of being near humans outweighed the cost of hunger. That result confirmed something biologists had been noticing across multiple continents and multiple species for a long time. Lions in Africa reduce their movement in areas with higher human activity. Tigers in India give wide berths to villages. Jaguars in the Amazon have adjusted their movement patterns to avoid locations where humans are regularly present. These are animals that have decided at a species level over thousands of generations that being near us is not worth it. And the reason for that is one of the most brutal facts in natural history. We have been hunting and killing large predators for so long and so effectively that we have literally shaped their genetics. Humans have been active predators for somewhere around 2 million years. We hunted mammoths out of existence. We wiped megafauna off entire continents. Giant sloths, woolly rhinos, saber-toothed cats, Cape Bear species that had survived ice ages vanished within thousands of years of humans arriving in their territories. That is natural selection. The lions that approached human camps too boldly got killed. The wolves that preyed on human settlements got hunted down. The predators that kept their distance, they survived. They reproduce. They passed that inherited caution to their offspring. Over thousands of years, that caution became biological. It became instinct. It became the baseline behavior of every large predator that shares space with humans today. So, when a leopard picks up your scent in the night somewhere deep in its nervous system, a very old alarm goes off. Not a thought exactly, but an ancient wired and inherited signal that says be careful around that thing, do not engage, move on. That alarm has been passed down from every ancestor of that leopard that survived a close encounter with humans. It is a biological memory, and it runs deep. Now let us talk about your smell. You have probably never really thought about how you smell because you're surrounded by other humans all the time and you have normalized it completely. But to a predator operating with a nose that is anywhere from 10 times to 100,000 times more sensitive than yours, you are broadcasting an enormous, detailed, and deeply strange chemical signal. When these animals encounter a sleeping human, they are receiving a flood of olfactory data. And a lot of that data is just wrong. You smell wrong. You smell like synthetic fabrics like nylon and polyester. You smell like processed food. You smell like soap and shampoo and sunscreen and insect repellent. A cocktail of artificial compounds that has no analog anywhere in the natural world. Beneath all of that, you smell like a primate, which is something, but it is not the thing. Not the deer or the wildebeest or the rabbit that these predators have evolved over millions of years to recognize and hunt. A predator's hunting instinct is not generic. It is a finely tuned system calibrated to specific prey. You do not fit the pattern. You are not in the system. You are an anomaly, and anomalies trigger caution rather than aggression in most predators. There is also the campfire effect, which is one of the most underrated things humans have ever figured out. Fire is one of the only stimuli that produces a near universal fear response across virtually all land animals. It is not a learned behavior. It is innate. It is ancient. Animals that were afraid of fire in the wild survived wildfires by running. Animals that were not afraid of fire did not. The fear is so deeply embedded that laboratory-raised animals who have never been near fire in their lives will show avoidance behavior at the smell of smoke. Humans discovered fire somewhere between 1 and 2 million years ago, and for most of that time sleeping next to a fire has been standard operating procedure. We were not doing it just for warmth or to cook. We were doing it because it works as a repellent. A campfire does not just keep you warm. It broadcasts a signal into the surrounding dark that says something dangerous is here. Something that controls fire, something that should be avoided. The predators got that message, and they have been getting it for so long that the message does not even need to be decoded anymore. It just triggers avoidance automatically. Now let us tackle the biggest myth about predators, because movies have spent decades getting this completely wrong. Predators are not reckless. The image of the apex predator as this fearless, unstoppable killing machine that attacks anything within range is fiction. Pure fiction. In reality, large predators are extraordinarily careful about what they engage with because they have to be. A lion does not have health insurance. A wolf does not have sick days. One serious injury, a broken leg, a deep bite wound, can mean a slow death by starvation. This means every single decision a predator makes about whether to engage with something is a survival calculation. Is the caloric value of this target worth the risk of injury? Is this prey item familiar enough that I know how it will behave? A sleeping human fails this calculation in multiple ways. First, unfamiliarity. A predator is most confident attacking prey it knows. It knows how a zebra runs, where its blind spots are how it kicks when it panics. It does not know how a human will respond. Humans are wildly unpredictable. We might wake up screaming. We might have tools nearby. We might have other humans nearby who will respond. For a predator trying to minimize risk, that level of uncertainty is a massive red flag. Second, the size question. Humans, when they stand up, are actually pretty big. We are tall upright, and our bipedal posture makes us appear larger and more imposing than most prey animals of equivalent weight. Standing upright is what gorillas do when they want to intimidate. It is what bears do when they want to look threatening. A creature that walks around like that all the time as its default mode reads as inherently assertive to other animals. Third, why bother? There are almost always easier options. A predator with a healthy territory has access to prey it knows, prey it is comfortable hunting. Going after something strange, unknown, and potentially dangerous when there is a perfectly available impala or rabbit in the vicinity makes no sense from a survival standpoint. The risk-reward math just does not work out. Here is something else that almost never comes up in these conversations. Your sleep is not as deep as you think. We experience sleep in cycles. You go down into deep, slow-wave sleep. Then you come back up into lighter stages, including REM sleep, where your brain is actually quite active. And during those lighter stages, researchers have found that your brain remains surprisingly responsive to the environment around you. External sounds still get processed. Unfamiliar noises are more likely to break through into awareness than familiar ones. Scientists call this the sentinel function of sleep. The idea is that even while resting, animals, including humans, maintain a partial watch on the environment. Your brain during light sleep stages is still filtering sensory input and flagging things that seem unusual or threatening. A twig snapping loudly nearby, the sound of a large animal moving through brush. These things can pull you toward waking faster than you might expect. The humans in our evolutionary history who slept too deeply, who were completely unresponsive to nighttime threats, were more likely to not wake up at all. The lighter sleepers, the ones who could go from asleep to on their feet in seconds, were the ones who survived and reproduced. Over hundreds of thousands of years, human sleep got tuned to stay light enough to respond to threats. So while you feel completely helpless when you are unconscious, you are actually running a fairly sophisticated early warning system. And then there is the group factor. Humans are almost never actually alone when they camp. We travel in groups, sleep in groups, and those groups respond collectively. Predators across the animal kingdom understand group dynamics at a deep level because their prey animals also form groups. A wildebeest in the middle of a herd is much safer than a wildebeest at the edge. Predators do not just attack prey, they hunt for separation. They look for the isolated individual, the one that has fallen behind. A camp full of sleeping humans is a group. And not just any group. A group that, when one member wakes up and makes noise, will likely wake up the others. That collective response is deeply unappealing to a predator trying to make a clean, low-risk kill. Now let us be honest about something, because this would be irresponsible if it was not. None of this means you are untouchable. The attacks that do happen, and they do happen, follow a consistent pattern. They almost always involve circumstances that have broken the normal rules. A predator that is injured and cannot hunt its normal prey. A predator that is starving because its habitat has been destroyed. A predator that has had so much contact with humans that it has lost its inherited wariness. This happens disturbingly fast when animals are fed by tourists or come to associate human presence with food rather than danger. The lions of Tsavo in Kenya are the most famous example. In 1898, 2 male lions attacked and killed somewhere between 35 and 135 railway workers over about 9 months. But what is often left out is that these were unusual lions. Both were maneless, which is atypical. One had severe dental damage that likely made its normal prey much harder to hunt. These were not representative of lion behavior. They were exceptions created by exceptional circumstances. It could no longer hunt its natural prey effectively. It had been pushed by injury into hunting the only prey that was consistently available and physically manageable. The pattern repeats across almost every documented case of large predator attacks on humans in camp or at rest. Something broke. The normal calculation changed. The inherited caution got overridden by desperation, which means the rule holds almost universally in conditions where the ecosystem is intact, the predator is healthy, and the humans have not done something to scramble normal signals like leaving food out, approaching wildlife, or eliminating the campfire because it seemed necessary. There is one last layer to this that I save for the end because it is genuinely the most mind-bending part of the whole thing. We have been so effective at making the natural world afraid of us that it is now causing problems we did not anticipate. That same 2019 UC Santa Cruz study did not just document that pumas are afraid of humans. It documented that this fear cascades through the entire food web in ways that are difficult to fully control. When pumas avoid areas where humans are active, the deer in those areas face reduced predation pressure. Deer populations in those zones increase. That increased deer population overgrazes vegetation. Meanwhile, medium-sized predators, coyotes, bobcats, foxes, also reduce their presence near humans, which means the rodent populations they normally control start expanding. Everything shifts, and it shifts because of us. Because of our presence, because the fear we have generated over millennia radiates outward through the ecosystem like a signal. We change the behavior of every predator layer on the continent without ever directly interacting with most of those animals, just by being there. Just by being the thing that evolution told them to be afraid of. One species, one inherited fear ripples across the entire living world. The most dangerous animal on the planet is the one that figured out fire before it figured out everything else. The one that has been shaping ecosystems not just through what it eats, but through what it makes other things afraid to eat. The one that sleeps light, travels in groups, and carries 10,000 generations of successful survival in its DNA. That is you. That is what you are. So yet it's at the middle of nowhere, in sense of the dark and the night, and you feel that little pulse of anxiety, that it is fine. That feeling kept your ancestors alive. But the thing outside the tent, it is not coming in. It knows better.